Okay, welcome to the W2W review. I am the Oakland Knight, and today is Wednesday, September 28th. I am running solo today. My partner is not feeling that well today, so I want to give a big shout out to the Pirate. I hope you get to feeling better, my brother. These are kind of the things that we were talking about that comes up now and then, Raider Nation. It could be an illness, it could be a family member, could be quite anything, and we just have to go on the fly. And this is what we're doing, So I'm running solo today, but welcome once again, everyone, to the W2W review. I'm going to start off today's show by just letting everybody know that left me all the kind comments in the comment section yesterday about my father. I really appreciate it, all the love and support. They released him last night. Quick little update for you guys. They released him last night. He's home. We're keeping a close eye on him, keeping an eye on his blood pressure. He did come up with a little bit of a fever last night, but we gave him some Tylenol. It calmed down. It went away. He had major back surgery, and he's 67 years old, and he's a diabetic, so there's some complications right now, but everything seems to be working itself out. They did some x-rays. Everything came back positive yesterday. So all in all, on that front, it's good news. Definitely not out of the woods yet. There's a long recovery process, and at his age and some of the other issues he has, we just have to keep a close eye on him. But once again, thank you to everybody who showed so much love yesterday for my situation. Okay, let's go ahead and get into some Raider talk. That's what we're all here to listen to and to do. So I just kind of want to reiterate on a couple of things that we talked about yesterday, and focus on just maybe a couple of key things that came up. And I want to start off with number one, this defense, because I believe that is the biggest question mark right now, right? Is the defense. They improved quite a bit. It's not showing up in the statistics, but I've said many times, statistics can be misleading. It depends on, exactly what's going on. Once again, we gave up like 400 yards, not very good, but we only gave up 10 points. That's the biggest difference between week 1, week 2, into week 3 is the points, right? We were able to outscore them. That's the way this offense is built, is where we can outscore anybody, in my opinion, as long as our defense can even play this bend but don't break style of defense. And that's what we got from our Raiders Sunday against the Titans. So how are they able to do that with so many rookies? We had Latham in there, we had Ward in there, we had Calhoun in there, we had Corey James in there, and also we had our first-round pick, Carl Joseph. It was actually, when you look at it from that standpoint, it was a pretty and amazing feat. They did a really good job of shuffling things up and putting key rookie players in positions where they were surrounded by veterans. We talked a lot about that yesterday. So we have guys like Khalil Mack. We have guys like Dan Williams and Bruce Irvin and Sean Smith and Reggie Nelson and Malcolm Smith, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a good combination right now, and we talked a lot about making sure that this team stays consistent, and that's what we're looking forward to this week is just being consistent and building off what we were able to put together last week. And if it's another bend but don't break type situation, all we absolutely need is for this offense to continue to flourish. So, when you look at it, the big picture of things, it's promising. It's not fixed, it's not right, but it's promising. The talent is there. And that is something that we could lay our hats on at this point, is that the talent is there, the coaching staff is there. I think Ken Norton did a better job. We just need to keep an eye on that, though, because 1 week doesn't solve any problems that we may have when it comes to play calling, setting up the scheme, and making sure that it's right. But Ken Norton has always been that one of those guys that's been up and down. I've been hard on him. I've been hard on him the past few weeks, and I want to touch base on that real fast too. Look, if you're going to cover a team, just cover a team. It doesn't even necessarily have to be your team. In this case, we cover our own team. We cover the team that we follow, that we love, that we have a ton of passion about. And it's very, very easy and simple to come on here and only focus on everything that was positive, especially after a victory, and just talk about those things. But if you're going to cover a team and you're going to put your opinions out there and you're going to analyze, and all you'd focus on is the positive things, regardless if it's a win or a loss, you're kind of doing yourself an injustice, because there's no measuring stick of how you evaluate this football team. We never come on here to claim that we're right. In fact, there's been many times that we're wrong, and that's okay. That's part of this journey, is to be able to analyze your team and look at, how well you did in yourself of calling the shots. And then there's times that we're right and there's times that we're wrong. But I'm going to focus and be a little critical at times on some of the things that keep standing out, like our run defense. Our secondary really stepped up its game this past Sunday. So, we didn't have much to talk about that. But, once again, we know that this defensive line needs to gel. This defensive line may need a little bit more adjustments. They need to figure out exactly who's going to play in the middle and who's going to take majority of the snaps in the middle. And it seems like, to me, the best fits right now are either Dan Williams or the rookie Latham. My personal opinion, and once again, opinion, I'd like to see Dan Williams in that role a bit more, because I believe that he just brings the experience. He has the size. Pirate was talking a lot about the 3-4 scheme and how it seems to fit exactly what we need right now. It allows us to move a guy like Khalil Mack around a lot more. It allows us to put Malcolm into that middle linebacker role, but he can still protect the outside. It frees up Corey James to be able to attack the ball more and not have to think about his gaps so much. There's just a lot of benefits to that right now. I like to see that moving forward. We have the personnel to do it. It seems to be the best fit at the moment. We could see where this all leads once we get players back like Mario Edwards Jr., but right now we need to play to our strengths. And especially when it comes to doing the best to play to your strengths when it's a weakness. So, things need to gel, things need to get popping, but we're at a good point at this point to where we actually seen some improvement. Now we just need to build upon it. And look, regardless of what I said about Ken Norton, my thoughts don't change on Jack Del Rio. Jack Del Rio has a resume of, being a great defensive coordinator and being a part of a lot of great defenses. He was the linebacker coach with the Baltimore team, coaching guys up like Ray Lewis. He understands what it takes to create a fluid defense. The Jacksonville Jaguar days, they had a solid defense. But it's going to take time. I mean, there's a lot of people that made a lot of great points, talking about how many rookies, how many new pieces there are to this defense. And, sometimes OTAs and training camp is just not enough to get it to gel. They looked at a lot of different things. They did a lot of different things, and that's fine. But at the same time, this is where the first quarter of a season becomes very, very crucial, in my opinion, because, if this is the first 4 games is your opportunity to iron out those problems. And we are on the final game of that stretch. And obviously it's not going to be where I would like to see them, that's from a fan perspective. But at the same time, the time is there. The time is now. They got things headed at least in the right direction. They need to build upon it. They need to continue to do so. But, we have an opportunity here to come out of the first quarter of the season 3-1. Time's going to have to take its course to see if that becomes reality. We do come out 3-1. Worst case scenario, we come out 500. We come out 2-2. And I think for this young football team, that's a great way to start. It gives us an opportunity to stay competitive within our division. It gives us an opportunity to stay competitive in our conference. It's something that Pirate touched on yesterday, and it's something that we need to focus on. Losing to the Falcons, it stung a little bit. The Falcons, are right now, they took over the number 1 offensive spot from us, but we're still sitting at number 2. We're right behind them. And we had an off week, so that's still pretty good to have an off week and still be able to be listed at the number 2 total offense. I think we're number 1 in rushing still, so our numbers are still just fine, and we got a quarterback that can pull the trigger. We got a slew of running backs that could run the ball and get chunks in yardage when doing so. So everything right now, early on, as we start to end the first quarter of the season, is really lining up to be something we could build upon. And that's exactly where you want to be at this point. There's a lot of teams that Let's take a look at a few of those. Let's talk about the Saints a little bit. As someone that we faced in Week 1, they're still an incredible offensive powerhouse. An offensive powerhouse. Their defense obviously is still struggling. It's what's causing them to lose games. I know in last week against the Falcons, Drew Brees threw a lot of interceptions, and those are going to come back to haunt him, and that's another reason why they lost that game. But here's a team that, if you compared it to what we are, right, a really strong offense, a weak defense, they're 0-3, and we're 2-1. So it shows you the difference of where we're at. Let's look at Jacksonville. Jacksonville is a team that we came into the season comparing ourselves to a lot for the simple fact that they're a young, upcoming team. They had some great draft picks. They've done a really good job in the draft and in free agency, and they're showing signs of promise. However, they're 0-3. We're 2-1. It could be coaching. It could be schemes, or it could just be the fact that, everything's not fitting the way it is for us. We're able to compete. Our process really came full circle last year, going 7-9, and really getting this coaching staff developed with this personnel and implementing their schemes. So I think that we're a step ahead of a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars, who we face in a couple of weeks. So that's, it's something we definitely need to keep an eye on as we move forward, because I think the comparisons can still be made. I've seen time and time again. You guys remember the Kansas City Chiefs last year started off 0-5 and then went on this great terror run and made the playoffs. So anything's possible with any of these teams, whether it's the Saints, whether it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. Although I really don't see that coming to fruition for them. We're a team that carries a lot of optimism, a lot of hype to be a playoff team. And when you look at how young our team is and how many rookies we actually have playing, being at 2-1 at this point, heading into Baltimore, is exactly a good spot to be. Granted, sure, we would love to be 3-0 right now. We would love to be sitting at 3-0. The bottom line is we're not, but we're 2-1. We've only dropped one game. We got a ton of football left. We got 13 games left on the schedule. And we just got to take it week by week, focus in on exactly what we need to do. And that's what we're going to be doing moving forward, starting tomorrow, where we're going to get heavy into Baltimore and what exactly the Raiders need to continue to do to improve and make sure that they're doing the right thing and making sure that they get it going sooner rather than later. So from that standpoint, I once again, I think this coaching staff continues to rebound week in and week out. When there's a problem, they address it, they fix it, and they continue to work on it. Penalties have been another issue. Penalties on the road are more acceptable than penalties at home. So our penalties went down last week. We actually had less penalties for less yardage than our opponent, the Tennessee Titans. So that helped us out a lot. But there was a lot of those penalties that are just costly, and they're pre-snap penalties, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Offsides is not something that you want to continue to do. Or when you have a touchdown pass or touchdown play where you're holding somebody, and Jack Del Rio addressed that and said, maybe Donald Penn kind of sold it the wrong way and kind of was guilty when he kind of wasn't. When you look back at that play, it did look like it wasn't necessarily a hold, but it's a judgment call, and these things happen in split seconds. You can't challenge these kind of plays, and these are the kind of things that discipline helps you avoid. And I believe that Jack Del Rio, Ken Norton, Bill Musgrave, Mike Tice, these guys are really focusing in and honing in on some of these components, and we should be excited about that because we're not letting our guard down. We're not just overlooking these things and just acting like it's not a big deal. They understand that it's an issue, and it's an issue that we need to address. It's an issue that we need to correct, and they're working on it. And again, we're at 2-1. So like I said, even though at times we seem to come off a little on the negative side of things, even after a victory, it's our job here to bring the best Raider content that we can bring. And if we only focus on the positive, I think that we sell ourselves short. We sell you guys short by selling false hope. So I want you guys to understand that when we're critical, whether it's run defense, whether it's Ken Norton, whether it's some calls that Bill Musgrave makes, it doesn't mean that we don't believe in this football team or that this team is not going to make the playoffs. These are things that we need to stay focused on so we can make the playoffs. And it's also a measuring stick. So when we talk about these things, when we talk about the run defense, for example, and we've seen how it's struggling and where it needs to improve. When we tune in and we watch the Baltimore game this Sunday, we could actually look at the run defense and ask ourselves, did they do better? Did they improve? Because we're talking about it. We're putting it at the forefront. We understand it's an issue that needs to be corrected. So, those are just a couple of things. We're going to head to break here. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about the offensive side of the ball and some of the key pieces moving forward and where this stuff is lining up. We have an extra roster spot, so we're going to have to address that moving forward. But there's something that's in the wind that hasn't been talked about a lot, and we'll cover that too, which goes kind of back to the defensive side of things. But we're going to take a quick break, and we'll get back. We'll jump right into that, so stay tuned.
Carpets is celebrating the holidays with a huge inventory clearance sale. We have the best prices and guaranteed installation. Why would you buy anywhere else? Whether you're looking for laminate, vinyl, carpet, tile, or wood, we have it all. Save up to 50% on selected items. Room size rugs, only $69. Visit Carpets at one of our 6 Bay Area locations or call us at 1-800-355-4MMM.
All right, welcome back to the W2W Review. I am the Oakland Knight, running solo. Another big shout out to Pirate. Feel better, my brother. Let's go ahead and get started with segment 2. I want to talk a little bit about the offensive side of things and kind of what we saw and what we need to see moving forward. Again, I touched base on it in the first segment. This is a team that is still ranked number 2 in total offense. So, we're in a very good spot. This offense is going to be carrying us moving forward. It was great to see the defense hold its own last week, even in a bend and don't break type situation. They were able to make key stops, had some key turnovers in the first half. Even though we didn't make the best of those opportunities all the time, we scored enough. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day, is that W or that L, and we got the W. But I wanted to kind of touch base on what I'm seeing from this offense and what to be excited for as we head into Baltimore. We have 3 rookies, essentially. Well, actually, last week there was 4 rookies that were into the game. I want to save one of them for last. But, Johnny Holton was a guy who came in for a play. They kind of use him on the end around. I like to see them get him the ball in a slant type situation or make him a check down type option. Every single time we seem to see Johnny Holton, he's doing an end around. That could become a little bit predictable. Yes, they could run a fake with it, but again, still predictable. You're giving a team, a defensive unit, 2 options. Either it's going to be an end around or a fake. You can kind of defend that a little easier as moving forward. So it'd be nice to get Johnny Holton in a different situation, because this guy has great speed. He has great feet. We've seen him on punt returns in the preseason. He has moves. He can make something happen after the catch or when the ball's in his hand. So I think Johnny Holton's a guy that we, continue to bring him on slowly, but if you're going to put him in the game, just don't make it for one play, the same play over and over again. But, he shows that he has value on this football team. Then let's go ahead and address the real monsters right now on offense, and that's DeAndre Washington and Jalen Richard. I mean, these guys, for rookies, one's a late round pick and the other guy is an undrafted free agent. So, man, these guys have really, really shined. They really come and they brought a new dynamic to the running game, and they're not the only reason why this running game has been popping the first 3 weeks. We're going to get into why this running game has been popping up and doing a lot better this season thus far, and that is primarily to the offensive line, right? We'll talk about that in a minute, but these guys continue to just make quick decisions. There's times that they get caught up in the backfield. That happens to every running back. But 90% of the time I see these guys get the football, they're making quick decisions. They're not waiting for a hole. Either the hole's there or the hole's not. If the hole's not there, they're making a decision to lower their shoulders and go hit a defender and make them pay for it. And that's exactly what builds a good running game. You hear it year in and year out, week in and week out. Sometimes, a good running game is going to take those 2-yard runs, those 3-yard runs, and eventually they're going to pop something big. And that's exactly what you're seeing from this running game this year. Even a guy like Murray, who's got happy feet back there, in my opinion, sometimes he's getting caught for no gain, and sometimes he's only getting 2 yards, 3 yards. But you continues to see him pop out for 22 and a touchdown, and then you see DeAndre Washington rush for 30. In week 1, Richard breaks out and runs a 75-yard touchdown run. that's a good running game, guys. I mean, in the big picture of things, you want to see a complete average 5 yard a carry. I always say about 4 yards. You run, if you can average 4 yards, you got a good chance to close games out like we tried to do last week. We fell a little short running the football, and it's just a process. But the fact that we're getting over 100 yards a game at this point is awesome. Is awesome. I've been saying it for 2 years, primarily really heavy last year, that if we want to see Derek Carr take his game to the next level, and a lot of times when you say that, the focus really becomes on his statistics, right? Well, if we could develop a good running game, get some more play action going, you're going to see his numbers go up in yardage and in touchdowns. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. The statistic I'm most worried about is the win-loss column, right? That's the only statistic that we should primarily focus on. And when you have a running game that's working the way that it is now and has room to grow, and I believe that it will grow with these young guys, you're going to see Derek Carr have more options, more confidence under center. And that's something that was talked about a couple of weeks ago, getting Carr more comfortable under center, because that helps the running game. Always having to run from shotgun and looking at it from that perspective to keep teams honest, it makes it harder for the running backs. They have to stand up more straight, especially when you got two smaller running backs like Washington and Richard. So I've seen Carr under center a bit more this season, and I think that's helped change his game. This running game is going to improve. It's going to get more consistent. Coming up this week, we're facing a team that actually has, I believe, they're the number 2 overall defense. So it's going to be a challenge, a good measuring stick for these Raiders to really gauge where we're at. And if you look at the past 3 weeks, we faced teams that actually struggle on defense more than not. Last week was our biggest slumber, if you will, kind of a letdown, if that's what you want to call it. I still say putting up 17 points is solid, but we didn't score in the second half. But you could really put a lot on the fact that, that was a Dick LeBeau defense. Dick LeBeau is no joke, guys. That guy can make in-game adjustments. He has a great way of communicating with his players to make those kind of things happen. So the fact that we put up 17 and outscored the Tennessee Titans against a Dick LeBeau defense lets me believe that, moving forward, once again, this offense is going to shine and continue to shine. And when you look at the running game being a primary factor of that, this is where you cannot look any further than the trenches. This offensive line, Raider Nation, has been the standout of the season for me. Even as good as Carr has looked, even as good as Cooper and Crabtree has looked, Washington and Richard, Murray is in the red zone and scoring running touchdowns. It all starts with the trenches. And if you look at what we've been able to build this offseason with this offensive line, man, wow. That's all I could say is wow. You got, Donald Penn that we brought back, left tackle. You got Kelechi Osemele at left guard. You got Rodney Hudson in the middle, Gabe Jackson at right guard. And then right tackle has been a spot that we've had our downs with as far as keeping people healthy. The vicious Meadowlark Watson going out twice. Will he end up on IR? Well, we don't know. It looks like he's going to be okay and be back at some point. Austin Howard was back in a boot and was inactive last week. McCants is still hurt. He was inactive. And we threw in that the fourth rookie that I was talking about heading into this segment in Vidal Alexander, who is a guard. This guy is not even a tackle. And he was exposed a little bit, and that was to be expected. I mean, this is a guy, once again, that is primarily a guard, a rookie, and he held his own. I think he really played well, being in the situation that he was put in. The backup plan would have been going back and switching Donald Penn over to right tackle and moving Osemele over to left tackle, and then bringing Feliciano in to play guard in that situation. But, Vidal held his water. So this offensive line is going to continue to be a focal point of our offense. And we're going to be coming up and facing some teams that could really get after the passer, that could really stop the run. And it's going to be a great test. And I can't wait to get guys like Austin Howard back, Meadowlark Watson back, even a guy like McCants back. We got a ton of depth, a ton of depth at that position. And it's showing. It's showing on the field. We're able to run the ball. Carr has only been sacked, well, the statistics say 2 times, but in reality, it was only 1 sack. The first sack, he ran out of bounds behind the line of scrimmage, and they considered that a sack. That's why when we were talking, the fact that we saw that Carr before the Tennessee game, when they said that Carr was sacked once, I had asked myself, I don't remember Carr being sacked at all. That's because he ran out of bounds, and that was considered a sack. So he's only been hit 1 time for a sack. That is amazing. We're heading into week 4, and we've only let Carr go down 1 time by a defender. That is something that is going to, once again, take Derek Carr's, not only his game to another level, but his confidence. And the more confidence this guy builds in, this is year 3 for the guy. This is his year to shine. I think he's done that. He's darn near 900 yards passing already in 3 games. So he's well on his way to once again throw for 3,000 plus yards. I think he has a great shot early on to go for 4,000 yards passing. His touchdown numbers may be a little watered down right now, but once again, our rushing numbers are up. So, Carr has said it many, many times himself. He doesn't care about his statistics. All he cares about is winning. That's all that we should care about. And this offense is just really, really developing into something that's, I think, is going to even get better moving forward, which is exciting. We got something special here, guys, at all levels of our offense, from the offensive line to the tight ends to our wide receivers and our running back core now. We got playmakers all over the place, and they're actually performing. They got to correct some things. Sure, the receivers got to stop dropping some passes to help sustain drives and help get more points on the board. But we're talking about 1 week here, and a week that we still were able to put up 17 first half points, and that was enough to win the game. That's what I'm saying. With this offense being able to do what it does and continue to thrive, all that's going to do is let the defense catch up. And once the defense catches up, and I've said this before, I'm not looking for this defense to be top 10 at this point. The offense is so dominating. If it continues to be dominating, our defense necessarily really only has to be, worst case scenario, top 20. I know that sounds horrible, but you can get this team to play top 20 style football, here within the next maybe 4 to 5 weeks. We're going to win a lot of football games. A lot of that relies on our offense continuing to put up points and shine. But, me and Pirate have talked about it a lot. We're going to be facing a lot of great defenses. We're going to be facing guys like Rex Ryan and that Buffalo defense. We're going to be facing the Denver Broncos and their defense, the Carolina Panthers and their defense, the Kansas City Chiefs, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of big tasks that we have to get through looking forward. But I'm confident. I'm severely confident at this point. A lot of us have this team going 10-6, and we only down 1 game. We got 5 games to give up. So, a lot of football yet to be played, a lot of optimism still brewing here in the Raider Nation, and we should be excited about that. A lot of tough decisions have been made. And like I said, we're moving on from it, so I'm not going to get into any of the reasons why Marcel Reese is not on this football team anymore. I think the fact that this offense is doing so well right now speaks for itself on that situation when you're talking about an older football player. But what I want to get into, because what that move actually did, because he came off suspension, it legitimately gives us 1 roster spot wide open. So what do we do with that roster spot? Do we obviously we don't need anything on offense at this point. We literally don't need anything. We could address the offensive line again, because, you got guys like Watson, Howard, and McCants out and put on the shelf. So it's something that we might think about moving forward as a short term, but I think it's got to be on the defensive side of the ball. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, because for me, it's all about that linebacker core. And, is there somebody out there that we could go kick the tires on and bring in to help this defense right now? We have somebody sitting in the wind right now, and it hasn't been talked about. And that's what I wanted to, touch a little bit on. And that's Aldon Smith. I did my research. Nothing's really popping up. Goodell's not talking about it. The media hasn't talked about it in a while. Are they going to allow him back? Are they going to reinstate him halfway through the season? I know that He had his issues. Best case scenario, the way that I look at it right now, it took Godell till halfway through last season to even suspend him for a full season. So, maybe they actually activate him back. He's got to ask to be reinstated. If he gets reinstated, Raider Nation, it's really going to help out this football team. It's really going to help out this linebacking core, because I think Malcolm, especially in a 3-4, Malcolm is manning kind of in the middle of the defense. I think that's going to be great. We could utilize Heaney's athletic ability and his speed. A lot of people give Heaney a bad rap, man. Yeah, Heaney is a bad middle linebacker at this point, just a horrible middle linebacker. But I think that we could, definitely utilize him in pass rush situations in the middle. We see that last week when he came in for one play and almost got to the quarterback. And I think we could utilize him on the outside, especially in a 3-4 type scheme. So Heaney still has a purpose. He still has playmaking ability. Our biggest thing is he's not a middle linebacker. But you can get me Aldon Smith at around week 8, week 9, whatever it is, he comes back. That's going to give this team a boost. And we'll have to see where we're at that point. But, that allows you to strictly play Irvin on the line, and you have Aldon Smith. You're going to have a double threat, coming off the edge right there, which is going to help Khalil Mack's double teams and triple teams and his chip blocking that he keeps getting. And then, you're going to also have, by that time, you're going to have Mario Edwards back on the front, who is a dominant force in the middle. Is something that we're kind of looking for right now. So there's a lot of things to be optimistic for on the defense. So that roster spot that's open right now, we'll see what they do with it. If they were going to do anything with it at this point, I can only see two things that we could absolutely try to fix right now, which would be an extra linebacker to help with the middle of that defense, or you go out and, find another right tackle. But it's all anything that we do between now and week 6, 7, and 8, so to speak, is just going to be temporary. Okay, it's just going to be temporary because we got to wait to see what the verdict is on Aldon Smith. Once they drop the hammer on Aldon Smith, that's when we could actually make a judgment call what we do with that extra roster spot. The other thing to keep an eye on is Michael Rivera. What are they going to do with Michael Rivera? He's been asking to be released or traded. He wants to play. He's been inactive. He's this year's Rod Streeter. He's a good insurance policy. If Clyde Walford goes down or Lee Smith goes down, Rivera is a good piece. I think they're going to hold on to him. But if we go out and we do add a piece within the next week or two, whether it be a linebacker or an extra offensive lineman to buy us some time to get some of these guys healthy, then, maybe you keep that piece and you drop a guy like Rivera. In my personal opinion, guys, I would honestly say keep Rivera for the season at this point, unless someone comes in and offers a trade. I would honestly say just keep him. Just keep him. Let him go at the end of the season. I think it's a good insurance policy. So, there's a lot of interesting things when you look at this roster moving forward that time can only tell. I really wish I had a crystal ball. I really wish that we were able to, kind of dissect this a little bit deeper. I know a lot of people have mentioned a guy like A.J. Hawk. My only question about a guy like A.J. Hawk is, with a guy that had his resume, why isn't he on a team now? Someone even mentioned something crazy about trading for Bowman. Niners ain't going to give up Bowman, and I wouldn't pay for that at this point anyway. We have too many needs coming up this offseason with contracts, so I don't see Reggie pulling off any big trade for any big player at this point, and nor do I feel we're at that point that we need to worry about that exactly at this point, right? We saw a bit of correction there. I think Corey James, every snap that Corey James he's going to improve on, and that's a great developmental piece. Ben Heaney as the backup scares me, but again, I like Malcolm in the middle. I think there was a show like that. I think I mentioned that before. Malcolm in the middle. I think that we have some pieces we could get by. It's really about coaching these guys up, getting these guys to play consistent, build that continuity, and with consistency and continuity, good things tend to happen. So that's what I'm optimistic for. This has been another rah-rah session of the W2W Review. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, you guys could find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at The Wheel to Win, as well as email us any questions and concerns at the w2w@gmail.com. Once again, big shout out to everybody that sent me love for my father. I really appreciate it. Now we need some thoughts for Pirate, hoping that he's not coming down with anything too ailing that holds him back too much. We got a lot of things going on this week. Stay tuned. We'll keep you posted for everything that's coming up for this Friday's broadcast. And I think that'll wrap up the show. So once again, thank you. This has been brought to you by the Will to Win broadcast. You're watching the W2W. I'm the Oakland Knight. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, stay Raider strong.